The Chiefs ended up beating the Lions by 13 on Sunday Night Football. But like most NFL games, this game was really decided by a few key plays that could have gone either way. So let's take a look at several turning point plays from this Chiefs win. We're going to start with a play that I'm sure you all have seen ad nauseum. We're at 5:28 to go in the first quarter, and the Lions have a 4th and goal at the Chiefs' maybe 1.5 yard line. Jared Goff starts under center. He's got 2 tight ends to his right. He motions left. David Montgomery takes the snap and tosses it to Jared Goff on the left for a touchdown. This play ended up being called back, and we'll talk about the penalty in a second, but let's look at the play because it's pretty cool. So the Lions really have jumbo personnel, and they only have one wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got 2 tight ends lined up tight here. I don't know their personnel very well, but I'm guessing this is another tight end. So really this is like 13 personnel, 1 running back and 3 tight ends, and then the 1 wide receiver. So this play is set up to look like it's a direct snap run to David Montgomery. So you're going to have the left guard pull, you're going to have the tight end lined up as an H-back coming in and block, and then Montgomery, theoretically, you'd think is just going to follow his blockers. But instead, they motion Jared Goff out, and Montgomery throws a pass over to Goff. And as you notice, when Goff motions, nobody runs with him, so you essentially have a 2-on-1. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is able to block Trent McDuffie, then Goff should have an easy touchdown. And that's really what ends up happening. I will say Goff bobbled it here right into McDuffie, and unfortunately it was into McDuffie's helmet, not into his chest as he's engaged with Amon-Ra St. Brown, so it kind of bounces the ball right back to Goff. It would have been another just really dumb way that the Chiefs have given up a touchdown after Trevor Lawrence scoring a touchdown after falling down. But as you know, this play didn't count. And the reason why it didn't count is that one of the rules about legal motion is that if a quarterback lines up under center and goes in motion, they have to stop for a full second and reestablish position before the ball is snapped. Otherwise, it's an illegal motion. As you can see, Jared Goff is still running at the snap, so this is an illegal play. It's a 5-yard penalty, and it comes back. There's been a lot of talk about this play, and it's actually fairly straightforward in the rule book. There are a couple nuances that I think people are pointing out correctly and incorrectly that I wanted to talk through. First, it was something brought up by Mitchell Schwartz, who said, he's a former Chiefs right tackle who's pretty active on Twitter now. He said that these kinds of trick plays are usually kind of run by officials beforehand, and officials are notified that they're going to do them. So it's a little surprising that they didn't have this down pat more. And Tony Dungy actually said that when they ran it in practice, he as part of the NBC crew was able to see some of practice. When they ran it in practice, he said they were running the illegal motion then too. And he said his thought at the time was that maybe they've changed the rule or something because he knew that was illegal from his time. And he would know because the Indianapolis Colts were actually called for the same penalty in a 2004 divisional round playoff game against the Patriots. What the Colts did was they had Peyton Manning under center. He actually came over as if he was like signaling to somebody on the sideline, and they just direct snapped it to Edgerrin James, who ended up just running with it. But this was called back because the same thing, Manning moved out from under center and didn't stop and reset for at least a full second before the snap. So that was an illegal shift. The other thing is that some people have incorrectly been kind of comparing this to the Philly special. Tony Dungy actually did also. And the point they were making on the Philly special was that Nick Foles came and he did get set for a second before the ball was snapped after he had gone in motion. The difference in the Philly special play is that this rule we're citing only applies to a quarterback under center. Nick Foles was never under center, so he actually could have been in motion at the snap, and it still would have been a legal play. This needing to set for a second afterward is only if you start as a quarterback under center. Anybody who's under center and then motions out from under center has to set for a second before the ball is snapped. Anyway, big turning point play in this game and ended up preventing a Lions touchdown. They ended up having to kick a field goal, so that's 4 points off the board. All right, our next key play comes later in the first quarter. We've got 1:14 to go in the first quarter, and the Chiefs have a fourth down of their own in the red zone. They've got a 4th and about 1 again, I believe, or 4th and 2. Actually, there it kind of looks like 3. 4th and 2 or 3 from the Lions' 6-yard line. Patrick Mahomes is in the shotgun. He's got Noah Gray to his left, and with Travis Kelce, and motions Gray over to the right. Takes a snap and throws right to Worthy, who gets in for the touchdown. And we'll take a look at this play. So here the Chiefs are in 12 personnel. One running back is Kareem Hunt. The 2 tight ends are Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. The wide receivers are Juju Smith-Schuster and Xavier Worthy. They motion Gray over to the right, and Brian Branch runs with Gray, which is a pretty good man indicator. And the Lions are indeed playing man. They've got Anzalone on Kelce, Brian Branch on Noah Gray, and the 2 wide receivers are manned up right here. So what the Chiefs are going to do, they run their mesh concept, but that's not the primary concept here. So if you remember, those of you who know, the mesh concept is basically that you're running crossers, and especially with Andy Reid, one guy is kind of setting a pick for the other. In this case, it's Noah Gray trying to get Travis Kelce open underneath. So this is there, right? This is kind of the second read on this play. But the primary play here, so the one is having Gray come and set a pick for Kelce to come across and come open. You've got a similar idea. You've got Juju Smith-Schuster coming to set a pick and Xavier Worthy running underneath it to try to get open wide. And that's the primary read here. So if you see, the defender tries to jam Worthy, which makes it even better because his momentum is carrying him forward instead of coming off, which might allow him to get around the pick. His momentum is bringing him forward. Juju just has to come in, and Worthy, watch this technique. Worthy does a great job rubbing right off of Juju's shoulder, leaving no gap. So defender's wrong-footed because he's trying to jam, and Worthy releases outside. Doesn't get any hands on him, so the defender's already lost a step just from trying to jam. Then Worthy rubs right past Juju, making the defender have to slow his steps a little bit as Juju goes by. And that's Juju Smith-Schuster in this case does a very good job of not making any contact, although he's within that 1 yard, so if he wanted to, he probably could have blocked right here. And there goes Worthy. That he gets that little bit of a step, and that's all he needs. If you all notice this action, this is the exact same action that we saw on the touchdown to Travis Kelce last week. Here's a look at the touchdown to Kelce last week. So here you've got Juju on the outside, Kelce on the inside, and it's the same idea where see Juju comes and runs a pick, Kelce releases underneath. The block here is legal because it's within a yard of the line of scrimmage. You're allowed to block as a receiver then, and it gets Kelce open for the touchdown. So this is the same idea from that play that we see here just 1 week later, but in this case, Juju with the same kind of motion, this time just doesn't make contact. He kind of goes to his spot about a yard and then stays there. But even without making contact, enough separation is made to allow Worthy to get the touchdown. You see it from the end zone view. It's just a quick read for Mahomes. He sees Worthy open. That's it. Just a quick throw, and you can see the separation from this angle more. Just too easy. Worthy so quick, gets out there, easy touchdown for the Chiefs. So big difference in quarter number 1. The Lions had their fourth down play. that was not successful due to penalty. They got 3 points out of that. The Chiefs ended up getting 6. Butker missed the extra point, but that was the difference in the first quarter, those 2 key fourth down plays. Let's jump ahead to 7:01 to go in the second quarter. At this point, the Chiefs are down 10-6, and they have a 4th down and 1 at the Lions' 19-yard line. Mahomes is in shotgun. He's got 2 receivers to his left, 2 tight ends to his right. Takes a snap, wheels around to his right, looking, throws it over the middle to Xavier Worthy, and the pass is knocked down for an incompletion. The Chiefs fail to convert on 4th down. So this is a play that the Chiefs run a variation of quite frequently. What they end up doing here is they've got, Mahomes does a wheel out kind of motion to his right with the ball. He kind of rolls out to the right, and the wheel is, this kind of pivot motion is started by a play action pass. So he's going to fake the handoff to Pacheco running to right. Then he's going to wheel around and roll out to his right. Pacheco is going to carry this and be a primary pass option immediately to try to convert. Noah Gray is going to come and run a quarter pattern on top, so you've got the high-low. Then Xavier Worthy is going to come across the middle on an over route. And Travis Kelce is going to block initially and then release late to be like a final option. So as Mahomes here rolls around, typically what happens here is you've got one defender that gets put into conflict. And so this defender has to account for whether he's going to stay with the back or account for the legs of Patrick Mahomes. And usually Mahomes can just make that one decision. He's kind of deciding on what the one defender commits to. This play gets changed mainly because of how incredibly decisive Alex Anzalone is at just seeing it and going after Mahomes. So instead of hanging about in the middle of the field, he just comes after it, and that puts Mahomes in a position where he can't. Typically, if the play runs out like this, the defender's running with Pacheco, Mahomes usually has enough space to just run this for the first down. But since Anzalone was so quick and so decisive about coming downhill and just coming after Mahomes, he's cut off the angle here that Mahomes has lost while waiting, and he's forced to throw this pass. Another complication on this play is that Travis Kelce isn't able to release late, which I think Mahomes is also waiting for while he's rolling, because as he tries to break engagement, he falls. And so he's on the ground, not an option for Mahomes. Mahomes can't run, and Pacheco is covered tight. Gray also covered really well in the corner, so his only option here is Xavier Worthy. Now, the unfortunate thing here is that ideally, and those who understand NFL offenses better than me can correct me if I'm wrong, but what it looks like to me is you'd really like to see Xavier Worthy tempo this route, or maybe even stop it, because he's essentially running himself into the coverage of another player as he carries this across the field. So I think my guess is that if this is Kelce and not Worthy, if this is someone that Mahomes really, really, really trusts, I think he throws this ball right here and throws it to stop him. Instead of leading him, he would throw it knowing that the receiver is probably reading this the same way. Just stop where you are. I'll throw it to you right there, stop you with the throw, and you catch it in between the defenders. But Worthy keeps the route going, and so then as Mahomes makes the throw, the defender is able to get into position to knock this ball down. Theoretically, Mahomes could throw this farther behind, but as you can see, Worthy's not stopping. So I don't know that. I think that's probably why, even to get Worthy to stop as much as he did, he threw it behind him and Worthy stopped. I don't know that he could have done any more than that, because the ball would have just gone behind Worthy. He wouldn't have had a chance to catch this ball. So that, to me, is the only gripe I have with this, is that you wish Worthy would have throttled this down a little bit and not just run himself into coverage. But even then, it was a really good play by the defender to get his arm around and knock this pass down. If you see it here from the end zone view, as he rolls, look at how quick Anzalone is just going. That's what really makes this play. Anzalone's firing over, and he's taking away options from Mahomes. I think Mahomes, you see him patting the ball here. I think he wants to throw this to Worthy now. And I think the reason why he doesn't, you see him patting the ball right here. I don't think he knows whether, he doesn't want to throw this in front because the defender can undercut it. And Worthy's not slowing down. He's not tempoing the route. And I think that's what causes this hesitation that we see right here. He can't get rid of it. And then when he's forced to throw it, Worthy's unfortunately in a position where the defender can knock it down. This was a point made on the broadcast, but it bears repeating again. The hand on Worthy's back and wrapped around is not a penalty if you can't show that he materially restricts the receiver's ability to move. So if he doesn't turn him, if Worthy were trying to stop and cut back this way, this hand would probably end up being a penalty because he would be restricting his movement this way. But as you can see, it doesn't look like from the hand anything changed about Worthy's movement. It's not like once the ball is hit, then he might rotate him a little bit, but it's legal then. So even though the hand is wrapped around Worthy, I don't really see anything that constitutes a penalty. I think that was a good no call. But this could have been a really big moment. The Chiefs were down 10-6 at this point, and they gave up the ball, scoring no points deep in Lions territory. So the Lions really kind of had things going a little bit, which is interesting thinking now, knowing the final score. But at this point where, in the middle of the second quarter, more than halfway through, Lions are up 10-6, and they just stopped the Chiefs. Now, this truly may have been the turning point of the game. If you want to look back on, what play was really the one that changed the course of this game, I really might point to this one first. The Chiefs played really well in this game, especially in the second half. But at this point, we're at 2:46 to go in the second quarter. The Lions are up 10-6, and they have the ball in Chiefs territory, trying to drive down and hopefully for them make it a 2-possession game here. They have a 4th and 2 at the Chiefs' 44-yard line. And Jared Goff lines up in shotgun. He ends up with the tight end right, so he's got 2 to his right, 2 to his left, and Montgomery in the backfield with him. He takes the snap, drops back and throws left to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who can't haul in the pass. The Lions give the ball back to the Chiefs on downs, and the Chiefs get the ball down 10-6 with a chance to come back and take the lead. So here at this point, the Chiefs had just failed a 4th down where they were trying to take the lead. The Lions really, they come in with already a 4-point lead. They really want to make this a 17-6 game at this point. So this was a big miss, and then giving the ball back to the Chiefs with good field position. So what we've got here, the Lions are in 11 personnel here. They've got one running back, David Montgomery, and their tight end, Sam Laporta. They end up running a counter to the Chiefs' blitz. So it looks like Goff is able to identify the blitz here. What the Chiefs are going to do, they've got their 4 down linemen. They've got Watson and Tranquil. All 6 of these guys are going to come. And that 6th guy is important because it ends up bringing the running back to come help in pass protection. So he comes to try to help Jalen Watson. Karlaftis will rush wide, and with the blitz on, Tranquil ends up taking up the guard. So they open up a gap for Jalen Watson to come through on his blitz that David Montgomery has to fill. Why is that important? That's important because the interior guys, Chris Jones and Mike Dana, both win very quickly. These are huge wins on their rushes right there, and they come completely unimpeded because the back who's in for pass protection has to go get the free runner. So Goff gets pressure up in his face immediately, and the Chiefs are just playing man behind it with Chris Roland Wallace hanging out in center field. So the route combination that Goff reads hot is he's got this corner route, and underneath it, Amon-Ra of St. Brown's running a slant. That's where he looks to. He's not going to have time to read the field beyond that. That's where he's going first. The slant, Amon-Ra St. Brown runs a good route. He times it well with Noel Williams waiting on him to come to him. There he is. He's open. Goff sees him. He's going to get nailed, and he's not able to step into this throw, and the throw is certainly lower than he'd want it to be. You know, Amon-Ra, instead of getting the ball like into his chest, has to go down around his knees to get it, and he's not able to haul it in. So the pass rush did well to kind of disrupt the timing there and to affect Jared Goff's ball placement. So again, remember, Tranquil's going to come in a blitz, and then you're going to get Jalen Watson from off your screen to blitz. So you're going to have Karlaftis is going to come wide, bringing the tackle out wide. Tranquil is going to come into the guard, and then Jalen Watson is going to hit the gap in between them. Here comes Watson, and that brings the back over in pass protection. So if you see up here, then you got Dana crossing the face of the center, and Chris Jones is going to come around the guard, and they both win very quickly. And suddenly, right in Jared Goff's lap, immediately, Goff isn't able to step into this throw. He's kind of leaning back, and he gets hit right as he releases it. This ball is certainly lower than he'd want it to be, right at Amon-Ra St. Brown's knees, and he's not quite able to bring it in. Now, listen, Amon-Ra St. Brown is clearly like a top 10 wide receiver in this league, so he's got to make that catch. Like, I'm not making an excuse for him in that, yes, he 100% should make this catch. And, you know, it's not the throw that he's probably anticipating or used to getting in that situation. And in that situation, he wasn't quite able to bring it in, and suddenly an opportunity for the Lions to kind of open up this game a little bit turns into an opportunity for the Chiefs to come down and take the lead. Now we go to 1 minute to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs are still down 10-6, and they have a 3rd and 10 at the Lions' 32-yard line. Patrick Mahomes is in the shotgun, has 3 receivers to his left, and Kelsey ISO to his right. Takes the snap and drops back, throws down the right side of the field to Travis Kelsey. The ball is too far, but a flag comes down for pass interference. And we learn that the reason why the ball was out too far is because Kelsey was being held by Rock Ya-Sin out of his break. And that's why Kelsey wasn't able to make it to the ball. And this pass interference play ends up taking what could have been a 4th down here from the 32-yard line to a 1st down well within Lions territory. I think they ended up giving it to him somewhere around the 20-yard line or so. 1st and 10. So what's going on this play? We know the Lions run a lot of man. When you have 3-by-1 looks like the Chiefs do a lot against man, you essentially give yourself a one-on-one with Kelsey when you only have one safety in the middle of the field, especially when you have 2 speedsters like Thornton and Worthy. The safety is going to give a lot of attention over to that side on the bunch, and so it gives you an opportunity to get good players isolated in one-on-one when you're playing as heavy a man team as the Lions. On top of that, the Lions are showing a blitz here. They end up bringing 6. And so they really just have man coverage with the one safety back there. The Chiefs, they've got Kelsey ISO'd. They have him essentially running a little out and up. And Mahomes is able to wait for that to develop. And as Kelsey tries to go out and come up, this is where Ya-Sin holds his jersey. And that ends up being a huge play here. If they had held the Chiefs to a field goal, they potentially could have gone into half with the lead. So here's Mahomes looking down the middle. That's to hold the safety in the middle of the field. Look how far the safety cheats over. I mean, Yasin has no help whatsoever. And so Mahomes looks down the field over to his right, and the ball's over Kelsey's head. Now, I don't imagine that among the few people that watch these videos we'll have a lot of officiating conspiracy theorists, but just in case, just to show the pass interference in a little more detail, as Kelsey tries to come out and make his move, right there is where you're going to get the pass interference call. And when you're holding a jersey and restricting someone's movement that's trying to run by you, and that's always going to be called. So it's a fairly clear pass interference as he tugs his jersey and prevents him from running away. When you see how much the ball looks like it's overthrown, that's why, because Kelsey's not being allowed to run. And so that's going to be called 10 times out of 10. Unfortunately for the Lions, it takes a situation where they could have potentially, with the way Harrison Butker has been playing, he could have missed that field goal. But let's say even if he made it, the Lions could have gone into half up 10-9. Instead, they let the Chiefs continue. They ended up scoring a touchdown, and the Chiefs went into half up 13-10. We're going to jump way ahead now to the fourth quarter, 3:35 to go in the fourth. And this is a different level of impact than the plays before. Before we were talking about really impactful plays, turning point plays in a really tight game. The tenor of this one's a little bit different. The Chiefs have opened up a 10-point lead. This is more the last gasp for the Lions. They're down 10. They have the Chiefs in 3rd and 1. If they can force a field goal, make it a 13-point game, there's still more than 3 minutes left. Maybe they'll get the ball back with about 3 minutes left in all their timeouts. However, if the Chiefs get a first down here, they're able to use up the Lions' timeouts and a little bit more clock. And it seems a lot more difficult from that end for the Lions to achieve what would already have been a difficult task. Patrick Mahomes is in the pistol. He's got Kelsey and Hunt in the backfield with him. Gray motions left. He hands it off to Hunt, who cuts right, absolutely destroys 23, and gets about 10 yards for a big first down. So what's going on in this play here, the Chiefs are actually in 13 personnel. They've got one running back, Kareem Hunt, and their 3 tight ends are Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Mike Caliendo, who is a guard that has reported eligible in this play. So that's your 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends. Their wide receiver is Juju Smith-Schuster, who's actually lined up in line. Nice to have a wide receiver that can do that. The Lions have 5 down linemen. And really, I don't know their personnel. 55 might even be a down lineman for all I know. So they might even have 6 linemen in here to try to combat the jumbo package from the Chiefs and the likely running situation. And what the Chiefs try to do here, they motion Gray over, and Gray is going to be responsible for kicking out Aiden Hutchins in the end. Then Caliendo, Jalen Moore double team here, and they absolutely clear out 78. Kingsley takes the tackle here. So as these two are blocking down, Travis Kelce comes around and he takes Campbell, the linebacker, and blocks him. So let's watch that all in concert. As you see, here's the double team, Caliendo, Jalen Moore. Here's Gray coming to get Hutchinson, and here's Kingsley on his block. Kelsey's going to come as Campbell's come into the hole. Kelsey's going to come to meet him right there. And then this really, the movement set up by this double team, and then Kingsley's block creates a nice little cutback lane that Kareem Hunt sees. And that's where he meets 23 and absolutely destroys him right there in the hole before Kirby Joseph's able to take him down after a 10-yard gain. So we're going to see this from the end zone view. Again, to recap, double team here, block here. Noah Gray's going to come across to block here. And then as we see that happening, there it goes. double team, block. Here comes Noah Gray for the kick out. And now we watch Travis Kelce. He's going to come up and hit Campbell in the hole. And the movement generated here and the solid block by Kingsley allows the cutback lane. So let's look at that movement a little more carefully. I mean, look where 78 starts. And now watch where he goes. He's pushed all the way out and back down the field. And look at the room Hunt has to cut back here. And then this is the hit of the day. Boom. Just completely knocks him off his feet. Gets a big first down. And this took a slim chance of the Lions being able to do anything and essentially made it 0. Then we jumped to 2:03 to go in the fourth quarter. And I know we said that last play was the Lions' kind of last gasp. This one was literally the last gasp. I think there were multiple instances where we kind of knew that this game was over, but this was probably, this was the time that we probably knew it was over by now, but it was when it was literally over. We've got the Lions in shotgun. Goff has 2 to his right, 2 to his left. They motion over to the left to create a 3-by-1 set. Goff's checking at the line. He takes a snap. Looks left, doesn't look what he sees. He tries to throw right to Jameson Williams. Not able to make the catch. It's an incomplete pass, and the Chiefs get the ball back on downs with 2 minutes to go at the 2-minute warning, and with the Lions having no timeouts, so they're able to just run out the clock in victory formation. So the Lions here appear to be in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and then 3 wide receivers. So the route combination that they end up running, they get Laporta going over the middle, Amon-Ra St. Brown releasing outside. Williams looks like he's running a curl, and they got Gibbs coming out to the flat. And then on the left here, they just have a comeback route. So the Chiefs are in an interesting formation. They're actually in dime, but it's not your typical dime. It's a 3-2-5 dime. 3-2-6 dime. What that means is there are 3 down linemen, 1, 2, 3, 2 linebackers, and then 6 defensive backs, which is what makes it dime. So they take Leo Chanel and he as the second linebacker and essentially use him as a defensive lineman. And so that's why your 3-2-6 dime really only has 1 coverage linebacker. And essentially they're running a cover 1 man. The basic principle of it is that Nick Bolton is like a robber, Brian Cook is like a deep safety, and everybody else is manned up. They kind of switch here on the release as, Laporta comes inside and Connor runs with him. Amon-Ra runs outside and McDuffie runs with him, but everything is pretty well covered. Bolton stays underneath Laporta's route. Hicks stays over the top of Gibbs. And you've got good coverage here from Williams and McDuffie on this side. Tight coverage too on Jameson Williams. The clock kind of runs out on Goff as Omenihu starts to bring in pressure, collapsing the pocket, and Chris Jones does as well. Goff is trying to throw to the inside of Jameson Williams because he's got tight coverage, and Williams isn't able to get out over there to make the catch. And that ends the game. So you can see here, Goff is trying something on the left first. It looks like he may have wanted Laporta, but Bolton did a good job of getting underneath that. He can feel the 4-man pass rush starting to get home. His space is confined, so he's got the stop route, but watch how he throws this inside to Williams because the coverage is so tight. But Williams didn't read it this way to kind of drift in that direction, and so he's forced to lunge for it and can't quite make the catch. That ended up ending the game, and as you can see overall, the Chiefs, especially in the first half, had a couple key plays that they managed to get to go their way, and the Lions weren't able to on a couple key plays, and that proved to be the difference that the Chiefs were able to then exploit and really open up in the second half of this game.